really trust us.
Marry my daughter.
Is she a prostitute?
The eyes of a dying giraffe can change a man.
We try make blood much big.
Happy birthday, Monkey Spanker. No, really trust us.
Hope you enjoyed the show.
Welcome to No Really Trust Us, the podcast where we troll the depths of various streaming services looking for movies that seem to be unpromising, but we say, no, really, trust us. It's fun. I'm Matt McNevin. I'm also known as the Professor because I'm an adjunct professor at American University teaching screenwriting and filmmaking. I'm also a commercial video producer and part-time filmmaker. I'm here, as always, with Dedo and Ken, my colleagues. Dedo, introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, I'm Dedo. I am primarily a video editor. Have been doing it for almost 20 years, which is crazy. I also write and direct my own films, sometimes with the Professor and Ken, sometimes by myself in my closet. I love bad movies.
And Ken, introduce yourself to the people.
I am Ken Cornwell. I'm a video producer and writer and a huge movie fan, sometimes referred to as a walking IMDb. And Professor, do we trust you? I'm not sure if we do trust you. No, we do. I'm just making fun I'm making fun of every intro. Sorry.
Yes, look at these trustworthy faces. Come on, how can people not trust us?
Face
right?
is very trustworthy. Yeah.
That's right. Excellent. Thank you, folks. And today we are here to talk about Killer Sofa. This film was my choice for us to watch. And I first came across it and watched it during the depths of the pandemic back in 2020. And it was kind of the first real, we had our kind of, everybody during the pandemic had their own pod of people, right, that they only saw, every once in a while. And so this was kind of the first time we were all together. We just wanted to watch something fun. So we chose Killer Sofa and we had so much fun with it. My memory being so much fun with it that I was almost reluctant to recommend it because I'm like, is it really that much fun? Or was it just because I was with people for the first time in a long time? And fortunately, I think you guys will agree that it is in fact that much fun. So we'll start with, as we always do, with the IMDb synopsis, and then we'll kind of go from there. I mean, it's called Killer Sofa, so you pretty much know what it is, and it's exactly what you think it is for the most part. So the official synopsis is: a killer reclining chair becomes enchanted by a girl and starts committing crimes of passion, which is pretty much all you need to know. But we'll get into a little more depth about the plot in a second. But it was shot in 2018 in New Zealand. It was written, directed, produced, edited, shot, catered by a filmmaker named Bernie Rao, R-A-O. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. It was then released direct to video in 2019, internationally and everywhere, and then came to streaming in 2020. I couldn't find much of a festival run for it, so I think it was purely a commercial thing, but it seems to have been relatively successful, so that's great. The in terms of the plot details, we'll get a little bit more detail than just that IMDb synopsis. The plot is basically that, essentially. The Killer Sofa, which, by the way, is not a sofa. It is a recliner. And is in fact always referred to as a recliner. The recliner appears to be possessed. It opens with a killing, essentially. Someone is trying to get their legs cut off, and he dies in the process. And then from there, there's the investigation and to find out what happened to this murder, how were they murdered, what was the circumstances of it. And the sofa is delivered to our main character named Francesca, who has an issue where men seem to be very obsessed with her to a disturbing degree. And she's dealt with this pretty much all of her life. And the sofa also now seems to be obsessed with her and is knocking people off in her life, especially men in her life, because the sofa is very jealous. We're going to call it recliner and sofa interchangeably. So even though it's not a sofa, it's a recliner. And the police are baffled as they try to investigate. Inspector Gravy and Inspector Grape, the two policemen who try to investigate these murders. And ultimately, it becomes a doomed love affair between a woman and her sofa as it all builds to a climax with a tragic backstory that goes back to the 19th century and comes back at the end to the big thrilling climax. So that is essentially the plot in a nutshell of Killer Sofa. Dedo, let me start with the title, because I did scholarly research on this, and by scholarly research I mean I read the IMDb page and Wikipedia page, which in podcasting circles is scholarly research.
It's deep. That's deep.
It's pretty deep. The title, the Killer Sofa, was not the first title. Would you guys like to hear the alternate titles of Killer Sofa?
Oh, wait, can we guess?
You're not going to guess, but you can
I'm not
try
gonna guess?
if you want to.
Shit, I wish I knew more New Zealand slang. Ottoman of opportunity.
Well, there is, towards the end of the film, in a headline reporting one of the murders, it does say Chair of Death, which is not one of the alternate titles, but I thought could have been a decent alternate title. Ken, do you want to hazard a guess at all?
I don't have a guess, but I will say that I read some reviews that were out there, and someone suggested an alternate title, which I could tell you now, which I thought was actually pretty clever, which was Slazy Boy.
That's not bad.
Yeah. I assume that was not the alternate title.
So you're actually close, Ken, because the first title they started with that they wanted to call it does in fact incorporate Lazy Boy. So the first title that they were working with was My Lover, My Lazy Boy. That was the title.
Like Lazy Boy's copyrighted as far as I know.
And that is why they had to change it, because they were afraid of getting sued by Lazy Boy.
Yeah.
So they didn't think Lazy Boy too happy associated with their sofa slasher movie.
I mean,
so
at least they didn't call it the Jew chair.
That's right, which we'll get into, because the plot does incorporate the mythology of the Dybbuk, or in the maybe New Zealand version of it called the Dybbuk. But it's one of those where I always heard it pronounced Dybbuk, Dybbuk. But it's also one of those words that you always come across printed first, because it never comes up in conversation. No one talks about Dybbuk, so who the hell knows?
If it's actually Dybbuk, does that mean Babadook is Babadook?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, so the second alternate title that they were, which I like better actually, was The Furnishing.
I do like that.
Which I think could be a great subtitle for a sequel. Killer Sofa 2, The Furnishing.
Yeah.
I think would be great. And then ultimately they settled on Killer Sofa, which I will admit is what got me to click on the thumbnail. So it worked for me. But that is the saga of the title. Dedo, it looks like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, related, and since this is a podcast all about trust, I think it's also worth noting that the cover art of the Killer Sofa does not accurately represent what the Killer Sofa looks like. The cover art it's much more killer. It's got teeth and shit. But that being said, the production design of the recliner is fantastic, and it's amazing how much expression they put into this chair. And
it is pretty incredible.
It has different emotions. It's jealous. It's usually angry. Sometimes it's jealous. I think at one point it's like sheepishly embarrassed, but like it is a masterclass.
Is like being a professor. It really is like a textbook example of the Kuleshov effect of the film school theory that goes back to the Russian filmmaker from the 20s, Kuleshov, who did the test where, like, if you just shot a blank expression of an actor and then you cut to different things, the audience will read different expressions on that blank expression. That totally happens with the sofa, with the recliner.
True. Although I think the expression does change on the
a little bit.
It does at some point, yeah. It gets a little Jim Henson-y where they kind of like puppet it a little bit.
Yeah, especially towards the end.
Yeah. My thing about the design of it, I kind of thought the design of it was like a combination of the Sorting Hat from Harry Potter, where the folds like form a face, and C-3PO, because C-3PO has the two circle eyes and the line, and you can still read expressions into that. So it was kind of combining those two design ideas, I think. Yeah. I do have a bonus. We'll always get to guessing the production budget, but for meaningless bonus points, I have the chair budget. Would you guys guess as to how much they paid for the titular killer sofa.
Ooh, like wait, like to make
Just to
it,
buy it, yeah, not
or
not
just to
necessarily,
buy
yeah,
just to buy a
not like not
recliner.
like the props and like
only one
the
chair.
add-ons to it. Just
Okay.
one chair,
Oh, wow.
which was a problem in my research because they wanted to do more kind of blood and splatter effects with the chair, but they were afraid that it would get too stained,
Well,
and they couldn't get the stains out.
props to them for not going digital.
Yeah, so they just had the one chair, so they didn't want to get it too busted up and stained with blood. So, and as filmmakers who've worked on horror movies, Ditto, we know how hard it is to get fake blood out of everything.
Almost as hard as real blood.
Actually, yeah, it's harder fake blood.
I'm gonna guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine they bought a new chair, so I'm gonna guess like 50 New Zealand dollars.
50 New Zealand dollars. I think the number I have is in American dollars, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So it's
I
not
don't
a
know what the
trick
exchange
question.
rate is, but
It's not a trick question that was donated.
no, it was not donated. It's not zero. I'll give you that.
All right. I'm gonna play Price is Right. And
Yeah. Not going over.
I'm gonna go, yeah, I'm gonna say 60. I'm gonna go over. Hopefully I'm closer. And so I win.
It is actually, you're not going to do the $1 thing, Ken? You know,
No, maybe I should have.
it was actually $100 even.
Oh shit! I was gonna say
Was
that.
what they spent
Oh,
on it.
damn it.
On the killer sofa.
Well, that is some good producing right there.
It is.
um,
It is indeed.
yeah.
It is indeed. And they could not have cast the killer sofa any better.
I know, right? That was.
I think.
I mean, it was overstuffed, but not too Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
So,
the
like-
other thing that's great about it is, and this overall for the film, I was impressed by how well shot it is. The whole film, just lighting,
Yeah.
and framing, and everything. It looks great.
Which is funny because the opening shot had me worried.
Really.
Because the opening scene feels like an add-on, feels like they kind of like did a pickup, but also it's like there's plastic. It feels like it was just shot in a room.
Right.
Like, and I always like we're doing another one of these movies that they shot it in a 5 foot by 5 foot room and they just had to shoot a different corner. I mean, even then it was still well done, but it was like super tight. It was super close-ups. And then the rest of the movie is like, clearly they had a few different places to shoot and had some sets and stuff like that. So
But actually,
Indeed.
the main apartment looks great. Like it's
Yeah.
really, it's a nice apartment.
Yeah.
It looks real.
and I noticed this on my second watch. The house, they did the exterior, that low angle of the exterior of the house bunch fat. It actually kind of looks like a recliner, like, which is
I didn't
probably
pick up
just it's probably just an accident. But the house is like,
on that.
and it's got this weird like gazebo thing that comes
Yeah.
out like that, like kind of looks like the arms, like
That's funny.
that's probably a coincidence. But I was like, that really does look like a couch.
Yeah, and the way they shoot the actual recliner, just the eye lights, essentially the quote unquote eye lights, because there's these two buttons
Right.
that are its eyes, and the way they get the light to glint off of
Yeah.
those, it can look sinister, it can look jealous, it can look adorable, it can look angry.
They're buttons, but they might also be holes. We're not sure.
There could be holes. We're not sure. Yeah.
They seem to
also
become
just-
Polish later.
Yeah, and also just shooting in New Zealand, because there's an exterior scene where she's like brooding out on this cliff, and it looks like the freaking Lord of the Rings because it's New Zealand.
Yeah.
You get like free production value
Yeah, that
just
is
shooting in New Zealand.
that actually is a moment where you're like, wait, I forgot where we were. Like, now we're in a completely different movie.
Yeah.
They maybe could have cut that moment, but it's a
It
nice
does
shot.
feel
though.
like it does feel like maybe someone note saying, "Hey, can we open it up a little bit? We've been in this apartment in these rooms too much, so let's breathe a little bit."
Or it was like the one day that like they couldn't use the house, so they were
Right.
like, what are we gonna do?
Right.
And it's like, I know,
Right.
she'll go throw the ring into Mordor.
Yeah, and Dedo, you mentioned something when we were watching that I thought was good. Was you very early on cited Dario Argento and in terms of lighting reference, and I definitely think there's kind of an Italian giallo, kind of lighting to it at times.
Yeah.
With the color gels and
Yeah, not a ton of blood, but definitely those bright primary colors, like the if you want to call the opening scene the prologue, the true opening scene where she's dancing, I mean, that's like just screams Argento. It's so easy for that kind of lighting to go wrong. And it just got, it got used so heavily in the early 2000s because like the cameras, when they started switching to digital, the cameras were such shit that you had to just like blast these colors onto the walls to like get any sort of good looking image. And it does feel a little bit of that, but not in a bad way. It's almost an homage throwing back to the early 2000s of these cheesy movies. Yeah, it's a good looking movie.
So that can kind of segue into our guess the budget game while we're talking about production value. So I do have a specific number of the budget. So Ken, I would first with Dedo before. So Ken, you'll go first. Okay. Would you like to have a guess as to the budget?
And is this
total all-in budget? This is American dollars.
Dollars, okay.
American dollars.
And to delay a bit,
Yes.
We were discussing.
You can stall. Feel free to stall. Yeah.
Whether they got some grants or not, because
there is some, from the credits, there is some government money in it from a film fund in New Zealand, because America is one of the only few civilized countries that doesn't actually have arts funding for any significant amount. Okay. And there are a bunch of production company logos in the beginning that you'll see. There's like 4 or 5 logos in the beginning.
Yep. And
including Mad Kiwi Films, which you gotta love that name.
So. Yeah, of course. And the director played many roles.
Correct.
As we found in watching these movies.
Yes, that's usually the case.
Yeah. So all right, I'm gonna say $50,000.
Okay. Dedo.
But all right, simply based on the fact that the New Zealand Film Fund is involved, I think it's way higher than that. I'm gonna say it's probably, I don't think it's 500,000, but I'm gonna say 350. Okay. There were moments where it certainly looked like they were cutting corners and stuff like that, but typically when you get that kind of investment from these film funds, they want you to spend it at a real level to keep the careers of everybody involved. So
right.
I'm gonna go. I would say 350, but I'm gonna subtract $50,000 for the really cheesy energy effects when the people get their souls taken out, because that they had clearly run out of money at that point, because that was like video toast. So 300 even. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Solid guesses. You may have overestimated the amount of government investment in them.
Both of us?
Budget, well, not Ken, but the budget number was 85,000.
Oh wow!
Was American dollars.
This is why I'm not a producer.
But that's good, because the fact that you guessed so much higher shows that they did a good job with the money they were allotted. Absolutely. And made it look like a $300,000 or $500,000 movie, even though it cost less than $100,000.
You actually had me convinced, Dedo, that I went way under bid.
Oh man, I'm just losing here. I'm losing all the guessing games.
One thing that I do want to hit before we get too much further is we've talked a little bit about some of the obvious kind of antecedents, including Italian giallo films. To me, it would be remiss if we didn't do a episode about Killer Sofa and not mention the granddaddy of all killer furniture movies, Deathbed, the Bed That Eats. Have either of you seen Deathbed, the Bed That Eats?
I think I have, but sometimes I just forget that I heard about it and saw the trailer.
Yeah,
but no, I want to say that I have, and I want to say Killer Sofa was better.
Yeah, Killer Sofa is Deathbed is pretty unwatchable. It was a film shot in the early 70s by a guy who kind of like Manos, the Hands of Fate, a guy who just had no business making a movie and just wanted to, and put it together over the course of years, and then it disappeared for a long time until the early aughts, and was discovered somewhere in Europe and finally given a release. And someone was a super fan of it and actually wrote a score for it that the filmmaker approved of, and officially became the score of the movie and was released on DVD. It actually has some surprisingly similar aspects of it. So apparently Killer Sofa plays into the killer furnishing formula because it's got a similar kind of structure, even the same kind of tragic love story backstory that goes back to the 19th century. It's the same in Deathbed as it is in Killer Sofa, which is weird. The best thing, not really much to say about Deathbed, because its reputation is way more entertaining than the actual film. But the best thing that came out of Deathbed is Patton Oswalt's comedy routine, which if you haven't listened to, you should. It's on YouTube. It was part of his special called Werewolves and Lollipops, where he did a whole kind of 5-minute rant or run on watching Deathbed, The Bed That Eats. And that is the most entertaining part of Deathbed. So I don't recommend
Awesome.
watching the movie. I do recommend Killer Sofa, but not Deathbed. But I do recommend listening to Patton Oswalt's comedy routine about Deathbed.
Well, having just pulled up Deathbed, The Bed That Eats on IMDb, I can say I'm pretty sure I did not see this movie because I think I would have remembered the eyeball that features heavily in the trailer. So I cannot
Yeah.
compare. But I will say that what I loved so much about this movie, and that's what so many of these movies, when it's an evil elevator or an evil broccoli, don't do, is they actually keep it plausible for a solid chunk of the movie that no one is noticing things are amiss. And it actually, like, the pacing and the scale, like, is really good. Like, the part where, you know, she wakes up in the morning, she's had this, like, slightly erotic dream, and she wakes
Or
up
is it?
and there's there's candles leading to the sofa. It's got some food on its arms, and this is what it's got, that like bashful look on its face. And you're like, how are they gonna, this is the first third of the movie. How, like, and then the boyfriend comes home and she just thinks the boyfriend did it, and he's so drunk that he doesn't even realize, and like unintentionally plays along and takes credit for it. And I'm like, that's good writing. That's well done.
That's
Right?
excellent, yes.
Yeah.
There's two scenes that I want to certainly single out. That would be one of them, where she straight up fucks the sofa. Which,
it's kind of like a dry hump.
yeah,
Like,
sort of.
the movie,
I mean,
like,
it's sort of like Titane, you know, where the lead fucks the car in
Right.
Titane. Kind of
Yeah.
a similar thing.
Yeah.
Or the counselor with Cameron Diaz also fucks the
Counselor.
car.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was a weird, the way she kept fingering the lever, and
Yes.
like it was like, wait, like, how kinky are we getting here?
Right. It
What is
went
this a
on quite
metaphor
bit.
for? Yeah.
Ken, it did go on for quite a while. didn't it?
I feel like this is worth bringing up too, because what's even weirder is the scene where the creeper sneaks into her house and basically has sex with her underwear, but like
Okay, so
but like the way he's got the quilt over his head, he's clearly on his knees. Like, it's just so odd where it's like,
The logistics of it are very
why did
strange.
you guys, was that guy afraid to lie down? Like
yeah, so that's the other scene we got to talk about, because in my notes as I was watching it, I just wrote down WTF,
Right.
which is so the set the scene, right? So there's this guy, a character named Ralph, who we meet. Actually, I think we meet him a little maybe too late into the movie, but so prior to the movie, he had proposed marriage to our main character Francesca, again because men are just so obsessed with her, and she turned him down because he's kind of creepy and doesn't really.
he's
wanna be with
also,
him.
I think, her cousin.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure. Because
Yeah.
in the scene when the cops are like, which of your stalkers is most likely to be a murderer, she says, my cousin Ralph.
Yeah.
And it's that guy. And that was a second watch observation as well. But I was like, this is the problem with watching foreign films. You're like, wait, is that a normal thing?
Right.
Like,
is that okay?
Like, are they cool with cousin marriage there? Or like, is this supposed to make him extra creepy? But like, Francesca does not acknowledge the fact that this is extra
No.
creepy.
Doesn't
So
seem
you-
to be. Yeah.
So you're confused by that. And like,
Just
maybe,
normal creepy. Yeah.
maybe people masturbate prostate under the covers like that. I don't know.
So yeah, so we have to get a little more detail on this. So this
Do
is
we?
part maybe halfway through the movie, and he shows up at her apartment. She's not there. The killer sofa is there and watching him very kind of circumspectly, very suspiciously. It's a suspicious face on the killer sofa.
It actually has a, what the fuck is this
It
guy
does.
doing in here?
Somehow they're able to do that. I don't know
Yeah.
how, but it's pretty amazing. He then goes into the bedroom and he's just kind of looking around and creeping around in her bedroom, you know, looking in drawers and things like
When
that.
he's planning spy cameras.
Yeah, that's right. And he's
That's
spending his spy cameras,
key
which
plot point.
he had.
Very
Yeah, he had
helpful
in
later
there.
on.
Yeah.
Indeed, he had them. He had some in there in the kitchen at some point, but he adds more into the bedroom. And then he goes to the bed and he's like, he has a bra and he has like a hat of hers.
Right.
And he tosses it on the bed and they just happen to lay so that the bra, the cups of the bra look like eyes and the hat, the top of the hat looks like a mouth, which was very carefully put together by the production design. And he
Wait,
like,
no, that's totally normal. Don't you guys do that?
I do that all the time, yeah. And then he kind of like, goes, what the hell, right? And gets on the bed, puts the blanket over him, and essentially, as Dedo describes, essentially, humps the hat and the bra.
But he's like not even humping it. It's like he's stretching his hamstrings. It's just such a weird.
It's very strange. He's like bumping up and jumping up and down. It's very gymnastic, shall we say?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the killer sofa moves up to the bedroom door and just kind of like leans in to it, just to kind of say, "Hey, what's going on?" And then kind of slowly, suspensefully approaches the bed with his blanket over and as he's humping it,
Right.
and essentially attacks Ralph, the creeper guy. And I'm just watching this, just be like, am I really watching a guy hump a hat while a sofa sneaks up behind him and tries to murder him?
I think it's
wow.
it's worth mentioning at this point. This is a movie you want to watch with friends. This
Yes,
is
definitely.
This is definitely a like
Definitely.
you know, some of these other movies
Yeah.
you can watch them by yourself. Maybe they'll even be creepy. But like this one is you watch this with your friends
Yeah.
with the substance of your choosing. Because it's just like, I mean, it's not completely bananas. They actually do
No.
a good like they've already established that the sofa can A, move around,
Right.
and B, can kind of manipulate things with the springs that come out that are prehensile, and
Which
like
I thought was like very clever because it at first you don't see it move around, but you know that it's doing something, and then when you do see it move, you're like, okay, like
Yeah.
I get that. That kind of makes sense.
but and you don't
If
like
the
you don't
couch is
think
gonna move.
you don't think too hard about it. You're just like,
Right.
cool,
Yeah.
that
You
all
really
right.
have to buy into you have to get into the spirit of it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ken, about the spirit of it and the tone of it, because I think the tone of it is just right in terms of playing it. If they winked at you too much, it wouldn't be as good. It wouldn't be as funny. In fact, I read some reviews online, I think on IMDb and maybe some other sites, where some of the people who gave it a low rating said that they played it too seriously. That why was everybody taking it so seriously? And I'm like, they just weren't vibing with it. It's like, that's why it's funny.
Yeah, right.
That's why it
Exactly.
works, because they're playing it so it's the airplane rule, right? They're playing it so straight that the ridiculousness is so much funnier.
Yeah.
If they're winking at you and delivering it jokey, talking about a killer recliner, it's not funny. But when they're when Inspector Gravy is deadly serious about the killer sofa, that's why it's funny.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yep.
Yeah. Also, I know we don't have any listeners yet, but when we do have listeners, if someone from New Zealand can tell us why the cops are named Gravy and Grape, like I Googled it. I Googled Gravy and Grape New Zealand, and I got ads for wineries, which is what I don't think is what they're going for here. And apparently,
Some kind of inside New Zealand joke that we just don't.
that's what I don't know. I mean, like it. You know what it actually made me think of? Have you guys seen Luc Besson's very first movie, Subway?
Yes, yeah,
And-
with
and-
Christopher Lambert.
Is he in that?
I think so. He's the main guy, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
is.
Okay. Well, anyways, that's not the point. The point is the detectives are named Batman and Robin.
Oh.
And I'm sure at the time he meant that as an in-joke because no one in France was reading Batman and Robin, but it's so distracting.
Right,
Like,
right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually honestly ultimately kind of baffled by those name choices, and I
Yeah.
thought, and after a while I thought, because it's clearly it's not as funny as they seem to think it is.
right, because like at one point the cop is like, call me Gravy. Like it's like
yeah,
like a personal, and you're like, why would you
Right.
want me to call you Gravy?
because they're clearly using it as a punchline at times,
Yeah.
and it's just not funny. And I thought, yeah, maybe it was like a cultural thing, but apparently it's not. It's just
Well,
not,
it might be. It just
yeah.
not an easily
Yeah.
Googleable.
Maybe it's a joke amongst the filmmakers and they just thought it was so funny, and it's one of those things that doesn't translate outside.
Yeah.
Right.
That's impossible.
There's the Roger Ebert rule of funny names, which he coined, which he said the rule of funny names is that funny names are usually not funny.
Right.
Right.
which is what he says,
Right.
which is frequently the case.
Like
But-
Simpsons did the joke where the guy was named Michael Jackson, but he actually
Yes.
thought he was Michael Jackson and could sing like
That was
Michael
funny.
Jackson.
Yeah.
And then there was a whole slew of movies where they would have like a little white girl and her name would be like Aretha Franklin.
Right.
And it's like it got so overdone so fast. I mean, that's not what's happening here. We're not sure why you
Yeah.
name your two detectives Grape and Gravy. But
Yeah, and then there's the other extreme, like Marx Brothers type thing, where you're like, Rufus T. Firefly and things like that.
yeah.
Which I think works.
Yeah, that's like
but-
that's a different kind of joke.
Yeah, it's
Like,
different
that's
kind of
just,
comedy, too.
That's a silly name.
Names.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
that's
They're often funny. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But the Gravy and Grape thing, didn't quite do it for me.
Yeah, it was a mystery, but minor blip on an otherwise excellent film.
Indeed.
So, and like we talked about, like how cool is it to see like some Jewish mythology? Although I mean, they don't really get in the weeds, but it's basically just like a different name for a demon.
Curious about that, Professor. And I don't know if you found out any details about it, but did they? It's like Dedo was saying, it's not something that you see, used a lot in films. And did you see anything about what their thinking was behind it? Was it just that they thought it was a fun idea, or is there something
Yeah.
than that?
I wasn't able to find like what their thinking was behind it, but I think it's just kind of what Dedo was talking about. I think it was just a different kind of way to approach it, because usually these things, when objects possess, it's almost always Christian mythology. It's always like demonic possession or something like that. So I think it works because it's Jewish mythology and it's slightly different. It's basically the Jewish version of that idea anyway. So it's ultimately it functions the same way. And as they explain it in the movie, it's pretty accurate. Like it's a spirit attached to a specific object, and it's also kind of, I'm not sure if this is where this idea started with this mythology, whether it was pulled from something else, but like the idea of like a spirit having to do something before they can move on, that's a big part of the Dybbuk mythology, and it kind of sort of plays into that here. So that idea has become now kind of universal amongst these types of films. So it's ultimately it functions the same way as demonic possession, but it works in a little bit better way, I think, and a little more nuanced and a little more interesting. And also, that's one point towards the end to fight the Dybbuk inside the killer sofa. They use what's called a Dybbuk box, which is actually also accurate as a way to trap the spirit and combat it. They actually commit to the mythology, which is pretty amazing. So they did their research. So good for them.
And related, they did a good job of teasing out the story of the Dybbuk and the past and how it all connects to the present, rather than just dumping it on you right away. You have the flashbacks that the old man has, then he does a little research, and then you get like the super cheesy but yet apparently actually competent YouTube guy who's like, like you're like, oh, this guy's gonna be a scam, but then you're like, oh no, he apparently knows what he's talking about.
I thought it was kind of interesting too that he stays a YouTube character, and it doesn't, you might expect
Doesn't
him
enter the story.
Yeah, usually they
bring it
show
in.
up. Yeah. And then you finally get all the dots connected, and you're like, oh, okay, that's plausible in this world. That actually tracks. Speaking of video characters, another thing I noticed on the second watch, and this one stung a little, was that Federico, the stalker boyfriend, he is a YouTube film reviewer and talks about bad movies. So I was like, oh no, it's calling us out. We're like, the cops are like looking into him, and they're watching his YouTube channel, and he's like bitching about how cliched some zombie movie he watched. And he's like, this is such a cliche, and I was like, that's
But
too
we're
real.
celebrating these movies.
That's right.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yes.
Or you may be starting to half pitch us a horror movie, Dedo, where a frustrated filmmaker murders YouTube reviewers just one by one.
I started to watch Evil Ed the other day because it's actually about a film editor who goes on a murder spree. It's a cult. I'm not going to say classic. It's a cult film from like the 80s. I did not finish it. It's really bad. The ADR is so ridiculous. It was clearly not shot in America, but then the voice talent they got is so dramatic that like it just doesn't fit. But anyways, yeah. So there's an unfulfilled market there of evil film people. So
Yeah, I think that's another reason why this film, why we recommend this film to even people who aren't into kind of be it bad movies or not bad movies, but B movies like this, is that because the level of craft is so high, like because of the not just the visuals but also the sound. Like the sound is really well done, and you're never like straining to, even with the kind of relatively thick New Zealand accent, you never have to turn on the subtitles to find out what people are saying,
yeah,
which
that's a good point.
sometimes you have to do with some of these lower budget movies, where the sound, more than anything else, as you watch a lot of these types of films, the sound more often than not is just can be bad to terrible.
Yeah.
And sometimes like you're really into a movie and you really like the idea and you really like what they're doing, but the sound is just so bad you just can't. And that's certainly not the case here.
Yeah, and other like two very little details, but like to me they mean a lot. One is there's a scene early on where Francesca and her friend Maxie are watching a movie, and I don't know where they got this movie from, but it's not a public domain film from 1937, which is what you always see, right? And then the other little detail that this really only matters to me is that in the beginning, when Federico is getting dismembered, they use a sawzall, and they actually have like the appropriately sized blade on the sawzall, and I'm like, yes, someone at least thought a little bit about what you would need to actually cut through some limbs. So that's cool.
Yeah, so Detta, I was fascinated by that too. Anytime that happens in a movie like this, and I'm always fascinated the source of the movie within the movie that people are watching, or whatever it is. And I was trying to find it, but I couldn't find it. So I assume it's either footage shot specifically for this film, or it's maybe one of their shorts or something.
I like it when you realize it's one of the director's other movies. Like That's always cool. And yeah, who knows? Maybe it is in public domain in New Zealand, but it looks like a Hong Kong movie, so I don't know.
And the runtime too is just perfect. Like they know exactly how long the killer recliner movie should be, right. And they keep it to that because it says it's 81 minutes, but there's about 3.5 minutes of closing credits, and the opening credit scene is about 1.5 minutes. So you're looking like 5 minutes, out of the movie. So it's basically 75, 76 minutes, which is right around where it should be. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Also, the other thing I'll say in terms of going back to the idea of people who don't quite watch these types of films a lot, and why I'd still recommend it to them, is because I actually thought going in, maybe it's because I'm such a fan of early Peter Jackson, like Bad Taste and Dead Alive, and before he got big with Lord of the Rings, I thought it was going to be much more of a splatter movie. I don't know what you guys thought. I was expecting a lot more gore effects, and I was surprised at whether it was budget related or whether it was just tone, at the restraint that they had in terms of the gore effects. I don't know what you guys thought about that.
Well, I agree, because like especially in the beginning where the girl gets her hand chomped.
The gnarliest part of the whole movie, right?
And that is a gnarly moment. And I am such a like fake monsters and eating people and dudes with axes doesn't bother me, but I see someone like having an actual like workplace safety accident, and I'm like, oh no, I don't like this. And but I honestly, I think your research revealed the real answer, which was they couldn't get blood on the so I'm curious if like a different version.
They did some clever things to get around it, right? Because there's a scene where Francesca is going to set the sofa on fire, and he keeps blowing out the match, which was so great.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah, and they do solve the problem, because one thing the problem you have is like, okay, it's a sofa, so how are you going to kill people or how are you going to attack people? And so in addition to actually having it be able to kind of move on its own, they do come up with the idea of the springs. And I think the word you used, Dedo, prehensile, is a very good word to describe it, because they can kind of shoot out and kind of like, like the limbs in Evil Dead, where they kind of shoot out and grab people and poke them, and
they're a little stabby
and kill them, a little stabby, which is pretty clever. Yeah. So it's a way of making it more of a slasher villain than you would think. Yeah, which I thought was impressive.
I mean, there was also the good scene where the sofa pushes the douchey roommate into the stove and injures his legs.
Yeah, it's another pretty gnarly moment in terms of the sort of thing that kind of went like I mentioned this when we were watching the movie together, but like it's like the moment in Silence of the Lambs where they're talking about killing, eating people and murdering people, and there's some pretty gnarly stuff in there. But the thing that always makes me wince when I watch that movie is the bit where Clarice Starling, she's trying to get into the storage unit, and she has the door won't open all the way, so she has to kind of slide underneath it, and there's a bad splinter gets stuck in her leg.
Yeah.
And I was just like that. It's like the cannibalism's fine, but getting a splinter in your leg just makes me wince.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, like the Final Destination movies are probably like my least favorite movies, and from the point of view of they legitimately make me uncomfortable. It's just, like, someone's in the kitchen, you're like, well, what are they going to cut off, or how are they going to end up in the garbage disposal? It's like, you're just like
that crazy opening scene with the logs that roll off the truck. And,
right.
Yep.
Like that always gets me. Now, anytime I'm behind a truck with anything on it, I think about that.
Yeah, we see a ton of those trucks in West Virginia, and I'm like, yep, cool, going the other way.
That's how Alan J. Pakula died, the director who made all the President's Men and Pelican Brief and Clute. A famous, great director. That's how he died. He was behind a logging truck and just slammed right in his face and killed him.
That is terrifying.
Which is, it really happens, which is even more terrifying.
Probably happens less now than it did.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And before we wrap it up, I want to talk about, are there any favorite lines or line readings that you guys have? We talked about this ahead of time. We decided that we're going to coin a new award, which is the Walken Award, Christopher Walken Award, for either best line reading or best line. Do you guys have any candidates that you'd like to consider?
I mean, the only thing that stands out to me is the very super suave "Call Me Gravy." So,
yes, that's pretty good. That's perfectly delivered.
But that's less about the line reading as it is about the line itself. So
I have one just in general, and I may try this in We're Life now, which is, so it's early on. It's like the second or third scene in the movie where the inspectors are introduced, and they've come to Francesca because her boyfriend is dead, has been killed, or is at least missing, and they interrogate her in this theater, and then they all get up and she has to leave, and she says, "I have to go. I'm having some furniture delivered." And I'm like, you can end the police interrogation by saying, "I'm sorry, I have some furniture to get delivered." And I'm like, anytime I'm in a conversation I can't get out of, I'm going to use that. I'm going to be like, I'm sorry, I got to go. I'm having furniture delivered.
That reminds me, that was one little detail I wanted to point out. First of all, like that is a legit case of, is this cultural or not? Like, can you just walk away from the cops in New Zealand? Like, we're used to a nearly fascist police state where you can't.
right.
Maybe over there you can, or maybe it was just less than perfect writing. But I really did like a few scenes later when TJ, the boyfriend, is bringing the sofa up the stairs, and he's doing it by himself, and he's really struggling. And he gets to the top of the stairs, and Francesca just walks by him and ignores her. And he gives her a look like, I could use some help. And it just it just was nice, because up until this point, all you hear is like how she attracts these shitty men, and she doesn't know why, but now you're like, oh, but she's actually not perfect. Like, this guy, even though he's not a great boyfriend, she's not a great girlfriend either. And it was just like a nice little, like, well-rounded thing,
Which actually makes sense. It's actually another good piece of writing where it makes sense that she is with him and puts up with him, because he's like the first guy she's ever met in her life who isn't ridiculously obsessed with her.
Right, because he's so self-absorbed.
Yeah, the fact that he's almost indifferent to her is actually really attractive to her. As opposed to doting on her like most of her boyfriends do, which I thought was an interesting thing.
I also liked, upon like the second watch, I realized, like, so Maxie, her friend, says a couple times that TJ is actually gay, and it's not relevant. You never find out if he is or not, but you're pretty sure that Maxie herself is, and is in fact obsessed with Francesca, just like all these men. And that's like also like some good writing, like that kind of that projection that someone would do, and it's all subtle and it's not even that important, but it's like it's there, and that's that's really good.
Yeah, interesting. I noted that too, because I liked how subtle it was, as you said, because it never really becomes anything, but it's just kind of a cool detail that's in there that you can notice or not if you want
Right.
to.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does kind of add some subtext to the scenes between those two, because you absolutely think it may pay off somewhere and go somewhere.
Right.
I actually
But
liked Maxie the friend a lot, I have to say.
she was great. Yeah, I liked her a lot.
One of
Yeah.
my favorite characters.
Yeah, she was a good actor and well-written character.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and there's one character that I really want to shout out to who doesn't have many scenes, but I really liked her and actually wished there had been more scenes built around her, which is the so Maxie's grandfather is a rabbi, or used to be a rabbi, and now getting back into rabbiing, and he's the one who delivers a lot of the some of the Dybbuk exposition, in addition to the YouTube guy. He as an actor, he's maybe the weakest link part of it, but he has a girlfriend whose character name is Ashanti, who's played by an African American actress, who I thought was terrific. Like, she was really good and really interesting, and I almost kind of wish that they could have swapped the exposition between those two characters.
Right.
Like, I would have liked to have heard it more from her, but it obviously makes more sense because he's a rabbi, so that's why you have to do it. But I really wanted to see more with her and their relationship too, which I thought was super interesting. Because again, it's like the Maxie Francesca relationship. It's just kind of in the background, just kind of there. But you know, it's like you were saying, Ken. Like it's weird to say in a movie called Killer Sofa, but there's a bit more of depth of writing here with characters and relationships than you usually find in a movie like this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would, it was made in 2019, so like it doesn't necessarily get woke points, but still cool to see, like, it's not token casting. Everything there makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not just, we have a token lesbian. It's like, no, that's like that all fits in the narrative. Francesca attracts these people that are obsessed with her, and all that. So
yeah. And one of the line I really appreciated with the rabbi character, because a character like that is always like the expert, like always knows everything, but he sometimes comes off like, I don't know, because the implication is that he wasn't a very good rabbi. and he's kind of bumbling a little bit, and he kind of gets it wrong, and at one point he's trying to explain it, and Francesca asks him a question, and then he just says, he's like, I don't know, he's like, it's all too confusing.
Right.
I appreciated that sort of thing.
It was funny because Wikipedia described him as a disgraced rabbi, and I was like, I don't know if we learned that necessarily in the movie, but I
didn't remember that part of it.
Though. You kind of do feel like, even if it's not like explicitly stated in the movie, like he had some kind of a falling out.
Like he was the essentially like a defrocked priest, sort of.
Yeah.
Right. And I like that the first thing he does when he's convinced there's a Dybbuk, he calls his dad. And his dad is like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Like, and it's like, this guy's like 65, and he's still like calling his dad. He's like, Dad, I did it. I finally did it. I found a Dybbuk. And it's like, no, you didn't. Like, again, not relevant to the story, just good background, good details, well-rounded characters.
And by the way, speaking of dad, in the closing credit crawl, the assistant prop master is credited as dad.
Well, all right.
Just says dad.
So this entire movie was just a way to pay for Dad's recliner.
Yeah, that's right. That's basically, yeah.
Yeah, that's why they couldn't get blood on it.
Yeah.
That is funny though, because remember the beginning of the movie when it gets dropped off, and the rabbi is like, "There's blood on here," but it's on like the tag. Like it never occurred to me, like, why is there blood? Like you just but it's like
it would be all over the chair. Yeah,
clearly they were like, yep.
Oh
yeah,
that's why. There you go.
That's good. Yeah,
they got a $100 budget, the $100 chair budget.
That's right.
I know we don't want to spoil the ending, but I think we should say that it is sort of an interestingly dark ending to the film, which maybe kind of surprising as well.
I agree. Yeah, I was definitely not expecting the ending to quite go there, which I thought was really quite interesting. And that's definitely something you kind of you hope to see with movies like super low budget movies, because they don't cost much. They can take a few more chances with the ending. And I'm glad they did, because I think it pays off really nicely thematically, and the backstory and everything. I think it just is really well done.
Yeah, I did not expect JD Vance to come in then when he did.
And there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. We thought we asked ourselves, can we get through this episode without making a JD Vance reference? We almost did it. We almost did it.
Hey, this is a DC based podcast. We're gonna make political jokes. Like, we're allowed.
I mean, everybody listening's thinking it, so you got to acknowledge it.
Exactly. So. Yeah. Well, yeah. I say fine work, Professor. You picked a gem.
Indeed. I was nervous. Like I said, I was nervous going in because I thought, well, maybe my experience of watching it informed my opinion of it. But I wrote this down because I was curious as to what happened. So at 1 minute and 26 seconds in, is the first close up of the killer sofa. And as soon as that happens, you just burst into laughter, and I'm like, I instantly yes, this is the movie I remembered. This is entertaining, and it just never got old. Every time they cut to it, it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
So no, really trust us on Killer Sofa. You will not be disappointed. And as Dedo said, the more people you can get in the room to watch it, the better.
Right.
You know, it's like with movie theaters. Yeah, with movie theaters struggling so much and kind of trying to get if you just showed Killer Sofa like on a Fathom event or something like that, you could pack a theater and people would have such a great time.
Especially now that they have like practically sofas themselves at these places, right?
It's kind of a good Sun Cinema movie, actually.
Yeah. Oh, that too. Yeah.
That's right, because you could make it a 4D experience with the recliners in the theater.
You just take away you remote control the recliners, so like they're just move on their own. You're like,
to be some William Castle stuff of just making it.
Yeah. During the sex scene, everybody's recliner goes.
The marketing possibilities are endless.
You a little bit while you're
Indeed, someone should pay us.
Yeah, Dear Alamo, call us.
That's right. All right. Well, I think that just wraps up Killer Sofa. Thank you, Dedo. Thank you, Ken. Get as many of your friends. Yeah, get as many of your friends together. Watch Killer Sofa. You will not be disappointed. And you can also support some low-budget filmmakers. So definitely check it out. And we will see you next time on No Really Trust Us.
Adios, guys.
Thanks for listening. If you've got a movie that you love and you think more people should know about, drop us a line at noreallytrustus@gmail.com or on Instagram @noreallytrustus. Don't forget to rate and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.